Hey there. So today I'm welcoming Asil, who is an energy channel and just seemed like an interesting person. So when I get these solicitations for guests, sometimes I just dismiss them. But this one caught my eye enough that I was like, all right, we'll check it out. So Asil does really powerful work, and it's like very all-encompassing of the different many areas that you touch. So thank you for coming on here and giving us a snippet of what your world is like.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you for having me here. And I'm
Yeah.
glad that I caught your eye.
Right, right. So what caught my eye the most was the grid work and being a pillar of light, us as humans being a pillar of light. And this is something I have figured out or been exposed to this concept in just, I guess, in the last like 3 years, where you're like, I think I need to do this. And you as the human are like an important key component to administering healing to the planet. And we were seeing grid lines light up during meditations during COVID. So that was like kind of what got me started with learning about the earth grid, and like, or like maybe the grids are changing and our role in helping that. So if you want to like go down that rabbit hole, I'd be happy to hear what you have to say about all of that.
Absolutely. I mean, those are very, very potent topics,
Yeah.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
both being and becoming a pillar of light in human form, and also becoming a grid worker, or we call them sacred earth keepers,
Mm-hmm.
in this, vast grid that the earth has that requires a lot of work in of rebalancing, of uplifting, of rearranging, of establishing a frequency that allows the grid to operate in a good way. So we have, like in my path, about 7 years ago, 8 years ago, coming from, imagine like I'm coming from a like quite academic background, scientific background, and corporate background, and pretty much suddenly, um, it's a journey that I initiated as a spiritual seeker, but suddenly like this opening starts happening, and in this opening, in these deep meditations, I'm having visitations of light beings and angelic beings, because they've announced themselves with the names humanity has given them. And I'm thinking, wow, I'm just possibly losing my mind here. Like, what's happening? And is this just like a fluke of like a one day experience and then it'll go away? So I'm in this process of receiving what's coming through and also deciding, well, what am I going to do with this?
Yeah.
What am I going to do with this? And how am I going to explain this to my close friends and my, you know, colleagues and or my family, right? Because there's a tendency they might declare you're crazy, There's a possibility, let's say.
Could be.
So these guides were incredibly precise, persistent, loving, and consistent. So they kept on coming back with the promises they've made, and they would continue to work on me and deliver wisdom. So they would say, just speak. Like when they would embody me, they would say, just open and speak. And I would just open my mouth and it would just come out word by word by word by word. And I would record it and I would read it. It's like, wow, this is incredible stuff. It's really, really deep wisdom. And it's fascinating how they perceive reality and human existence and where we're going as humanity. So, out of this connection, this whole organization that we're running has established, and these two pathways, Pillars of Light and Sacred Earth Keepers, has established.
Mm-hmm.
One is, Pillars of Light, what it means to be a pillar of light in human form. The guides basically have said the key to the evolution of humanity is the evolution of the individual. Makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, sometimes we sit in our own singular perspective and we look at the world and we think, oh my God, this is gonna take forever to fix. It's just all over the place. It's chaos, right? And there is so much unconscious behavior and repetitive patterns and trauma bonding and all of that happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
And And I was sometimes in these places of this is an unsurmountable amount of work. Like, how do we, as someone who truly and deeply cares about humanity and the human experience and the earth, how do we actually make a difference?
Mm-hmm.
Right? If the scale of this difference is so, so, so big, right? So the guides basically said, well, you start making a difference within yourself and for yourself and in your life, and you become that seed that grows and grows and delivers ripple effects through your community, through your being, and starts to affect all of humanity. So that's the way they see it, like these seeds of evolution, the
Yeah.
seeds of awakening being
Mm-hmm.
established, and these seeds growing to become pillars of light
Right.
all around the world, right? And
Mm-hmm.
suddenly you have almost like a network of humans, a network of communities that are pillars of light.
Yes. 100%.
So I'll stop there to just like, a preamble, so to say.
Yeah, yeah. Just to digest that. It is cool. And that's how I see it too. And just like that ripple effect and just sharing what we know and holding our truth and just being that light by itself can help make that ripple effect. It's like humbling and amazing and just super cool. So,
Right.
so you had like a variety of angels coming to you, or were they any like galactic guides, or were they all angelic?
So in the beginning, interestingly enough, there was definitely a lot more of a galactic nature of this.
Mm-hmm.
But seemingly, when it started to develop these angelic guides, and there was quite a variety of them that would come through, and most common would be Emmanuel, Raphael, Michael, Zadkiel, um,
Gabriel.
Gabriel once or twice, not too often, and then after the development with the angelic beings for quite some time and archangelic beings, I started to become a channel for the Elohim as a collective consciousness, and that just really took my work and my personal development to a next level, and the energy that was coming through. Yeah, so in some ways, would I consider them? They seem to be like the angelic realms seem to be like somehow separate from these galactic realms and intergalactic,
Mm-hmm.
civilizations that we have.
Right.
But I do feel like that these angelic beings are associated and collaborate with these different galactic civilizations and
Mm-hmm.
galactic pockets of life and consciousness,
Right.
and they support them in their evolution, including us.
Right. Yeah. I know there was a period where I was like, are aliens galactic guides? Yeah, I mean not aliens. Are angels galactic guides? Like where I was like, are they? And
Yeah.
it's just that we wrote them as being this way, but really they could be that way, and it's just our perception and how our language that made them that way. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's a matter of um, semantics and symbolicism in some ways. But
Mm-hmm.
I would say that angels in that way don't really have a physical reality in which they reside or they come from.
Mm-hmm.
They just have been non-material, but they have, like, according to Emmanuel, he has had many, many human lifetimes because for him, as an ambassador between the angelic realms and the human realm, he
Mm-hmm.
had to have the experience of
Yeah.
what it means to be human.
Right. Yeah.
So that's one time, in a Q&A, he basically answered the question someone asked, is it possible that angelic beings can be in a human form, like a friend of, like
Yeah.
could there be angels in human form? And he said, yes, absolutely. And they might not know that they are
Yeah.
because they have to go through the same evolutionary process and the same template that other humans are going through. I
Yeah.
thought that was incredibly fascinating.
Yeah. I understand that, that, understand it. I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, what the heck, man? Like, who is and who isn't, like, among us, So it's interesting. Um, the grid work, how is that? How do you see that, or how do you work with that? How does it call to you, and what do you do?
Right. So when I started to work with the guides, they basically said there is three directives that they see as like the most important elements of their work for humanity. One was working with every human being on the planet that is ready to evolve and to become a pillar of light.
Mhm.
Great. The other one was working with people of in proportionate influence on humanity, because their evolution makes a huge difference, right? Someone that is of influence could just make a big difference
Yeah.
if they're going through an evolutionary process. And the third one was doing this sacred earth work. And basically, they were saying that the field of the earth as a consciousness operates at a certain frequency, and certain areas operate in different frequencies on the earth.
Hmm.
And that is defined by the energy lines that run across the earth and the energy nodes, that the connection points of these energy lines,
Hmm.
and also the type of trauma and experiences that are held in the field
Right.
of those areas.
Yeah.
So that frequency of a region is defined by all of those things, all of these variables.
Yeah.
And they basically said that if I walk on this path of going through the grid, the energetic grid of the earth, going from country to country to country, going to sacred site, and making these adjustments, and also going to sites of global trauma or collective trauma, making the adjustments to hold a higher frequency, what will happen is the whole grid of the earth is going to operate at a higher frequency.
Hmm.
And if that happens, the people in that field will naturally be uplifted at scale. Just imagine like millions of people being influenced to operate
Right.
at a higher frequency. And
Hmm.
I thought, wow, this is really interesting. It's like a leveraged way of, influencing humanity to operate at a higher level, at a higher frequency.
Yeah.
But it's also a lot of work, right? Imagine like how many countries there are and how many sacred sites there are.
What do you do at the sites? Because I follow and have talked with other earth keepers and tenders, and
Mhm.
some of them, or a lot of them, I don't know if it's an always, but making like crystal grids on these
Mhm.
points, singing, putting your hands on the ground, being on the ground,
Yes.
making an offering of some kind,
Mhm.
and just otherwise channeling messages that you see, feel, and get, or whatever. So like, what's your guys' approach when you do this?
Right. So there are many ways to influence energy and frequency,
Mhm.
right? And some of which are, as you said, voice, singing, the energy or the frequency of crystals, the energy or frequency of meditation. Like there's many different ways of influencing a place or node
Mhm.
or an energetic field, so to say. In the work that I do, it's pretty much like we as a team establish, okay, what's the next country that we're going to? In
Mhm.
this country, how many sacred sites, sites of trauma, nature sites are there? We make a giant list of hundreds of sites.
Mhm.
And then I go through it with Emmanuel, and he selects the most important ones that I need to go to.
Right.
And there's a short list that could be anywhere from 10 to 40 sites per country. Then we make an expedition to go through the sites, one by one.
Wow.
And at these sites, I go into a trance state, an embodied state,
Mhm.
and the guides embody,
Yeah.
and they do some sort of energy work at the site. And this energy work is meant to uplift the frequency at which that site is operating at.
Do you
And
recall what you experienced, or do other people tell you?
I do.
Okay.
I do recall what's happening, and I do recall in which way it's different here than it was on a different side.
Hmm.
And you have to imagine, like, I've been to, hundreds of sacred sites in dozens of countries, including countries that were in active war. Like, I've been to Syria during the war, I've been to Iraq, I've been to countries like Iran and Saudi Arabia and Jordan and Lebanon and Israel, and most recently to the Balkans, Serbia, Kosovo, Serbia, Bosnia, and Croatia. Visited 13 mass graves and concentration camps,
Mm,
former concentration camps
right.
at those places. And obviously, the energy at a, you
I would
know,
imagine. Yeah.
and a war zone is very different than the energy in a church or a mosque or a
Mhm.
synagogue or
Mhm.
on top of a mountain, right?
Yeah.
And therefore, the work is different slightly, what needs to be done at those places.
What have you noticed? Like, because I know that when I've the one lady I follow, Amy Dempster, she calls herself a Earth Keeper, Earth Tenders Academy
Mhm.
class. Um, but she'll say like once like something was complete, like the wind would blow or like a bunch of animals would whatever. So what have your experiences been with like where you get that kind of confirmation?
It's funny, right? Because everyone asks about phenomenology. So basically, what type of things are happening that
Yeah,
could somehow verify that some work is
right.
happening
I
here.
mean, it's
And
always nice to be validated, right? Even if it's even
it
if it's
is.
for our
And
ego.
yeah, we've seen some crazy stuff. So most of the things that we see are weather phenomena.
Hmm.
So basically, I'll go to a place, I'll do some work, and there'll be a rain, thunder, and rainstorm coming through, like literally the moment we finish,
Just to
right?
cleanse it. Yep. Yeah.
Or I'll be at a site in Israel, like for example, the tomb of the patriarchs, and I was just finishing up this work, and then suddenly it started hailing these, giant ice balls. So I
Wow.
talked to the guards, and they said, this never happens. Like in their, like they've never seen hail in that
Wow.
place. I was like, okay, this is really extraordinary. Or I go to Petra and I do the work that needs to be done in Petra. It takes a whole day to do. I leave. The next day, they have the flood of the century,
Oh my.
like pretty much evacuating 3,000 people from Petra. I was like, whoa, I hope that wasn't just, me like causing this, because, we don't want to cause this. But ultimately, if there is this type of phenomena happening, maybe it's necessary, like that there
Mhm.
is a cleansing that moves through. But
Right.
weather phenomena is one of the things we've seen the most.
Yeah.
The other things we've seen, definitely an uptick in wind, especially in the area where we're doing the work. Like we've
Hmm.
seen that
Hmm.
very, very many times.
Yeah.
The other thing we've seen is butterflies or insects coming through that are not even in season, right? It's
Yeah.
just like something would appear, and the locals would be like, this is very unusual. Like, this never
Right.
happens here. And the other things we've noticed would be like, a place that is normally a very, very touristic place where you would have like thousands of people normally is suddenly empty. Like, as we are about to just sit down and we're concerned, like, how are we going to do this? It
Yeah.
just clears out. There's no one there.
That's
And the
awesome.
moment we finish, people start coming back. So there is
Mhm.
like the universe is somehow conspiring
Yeah,
to
creates
create
that
that
gap.
space
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah, that was another guest I had spoken to, who another lady I respect and follow. Her name is Jenny Schultz, and she was doing some healing in the water. I forget where she was because she does this all over, but she wanted to connect, or the dolphins ended up connecting with her. Like it just all worked out. And she decided when she got there she wanted to, but then when she got there, they're like, oh, it's all booked up, blah, blah, blah. And then that morning they're like, we have two availabilities, and then like nobody else was there. And like she was able to do the work with the dolphins and be uninterrupted. It's like, I love it. I love it so much. It's like,
Yeah.
it really just kind of proves it, all of this magic stuff really is real. These things can happen.
Yeah. You know what's interesting is like the water thing reminded me of something. I'm currently in Guatemala, and we did an expedition in Guatemala about 2 years ago, and we went to this freshwater cenote, which apparently was a very sacred place, and the the port where we're supposed to like sit and do the meditation work and the healing work was
Mhm.
underwater. Like the water level was much higher, so the local guide that I was with, who was also a famous archaeologist, he basically said, Asil, you may have to like just go into the water and like do it in the water. You can stand here and that's
Mhm.
fine. The water will come about to here. So I go into the water. I'm like, okay, this is great. I've never done this one before, doing the
Mhm.
channeling inside the water. So I'm sitting there and doing this channeling in the water. And what I didn't notice, and this is something that this archaeologist told me afterwards, who is, by the way, naturally a skeptic, right? From
Mhm.
a
Mhm.
scientific perspective,
Right.
but he's very observant. He said, all these tiny fish that were in the water that are like wild fish, they came and they were forming like a star formation around me and just like standing and watching in some ways as this energy was moving through me.
Hmm.
And he said, I've never seen anything like this. I've never seen nature behave like this, which was very unusual and
Yeah.
also a beautiful confirmation.
Yeah. It's really cool. And this is not even connected to that, but it just made me think of it. When we put our dog down, we had to put her down in the backyard. It was during COVID, and we had like an umbrella out for shade because it was a hot and sunny day. And when she passed, well, the lady, the vet said whenever they pass, because she's been doing this all that summer, she says whenever the animals actually die, like the wind will always blow. And we had that happen, but I didn't recognize that it happened when it happened for her. But then my oldest was taking too long with her, and eventually you're like, oh my gosh, like how are we gonna tell her to, she's got to like get up now, and then a bigger gust of wind came and knocked the umbrella over. So it's like, okay, there you go.
Mhm.
Like that, there's your message. It's time to move, but
Mhm.
just love that. I love how all of the synchronistic things happen, quote unquote.
Yes.
So it's just amazing. Now with where we're at, we're recording, it's today, August 1st. I probably will release this next week, but so it's still sort of relevant with the whole Lionsgate. Do you, what they whoever emailed me was like, oh, maybe bring up Lionsgate. So like I know that this is like, it's a bigger window. It's from like the end of July through to August 8th, or I'm sure it does, the energies extend beyond. I don't know for sure, but we're in it. And I know that Lionsgate, sometimes these periods of time can be like a big like portal. People pass away in kind of like a higher number. And I mentioned that to my kids last week when Sinead O'Connor passed. I'm like, oh, it's Lionsgate, like it's this portal that we're in now. And then two more people who, Pee Wee Herman died yesterday. I don't know if you know Pee Wee Herman, Paul Rubens, but and then somebody else who was a famous movie star, TV star that I don't know the name of, but it's just like, what do you have to say about Lionsgate? And I mean, my mother passed during Lionsgate. She passed on August 4th, and her funeral was August 8th. So I think it's just like it's palpable almost. So I'm just curious what you have to say about that. What do you know?
Well, the one thing I'll say is that the energies on our earthly plane are rising.
Mm-hmm.
And with this rising, all cosmological alignments are getting more intense.
Mm-hmm.
Moons, new moons, supermoons, blood moons, and solar flares, planetary alignments, and also, star system alignments. In this case, the alignment of Sirius with our sun and the earth.
Mm-hmm.
This alignment in itself has become energetically stronger and stronger and stronger. So it is a powerful time of transformation, a powerful time of receiving this energy that's coming through. And as you said, it opens up on July 20,
I think.
yeah, exactly, 27th. And it goes all the way to August 8th.
Mm-hmm.
So we did this year. Normally, we always do a program on August 8/8.
Mm-hmm.
And this year we did something for the opening. So when it started on the 27th, 28th actually, we did a whole workshop. And that workshop is available on our YouTube. It's free, so anyone can do it. It's a transmission and an energetic adjustment and some sort of a Q&A where I answer some of these questions from the audience.
Mm-hmm.
And these sessions on and around Lionsgate are super potent. And I think it is twofold. One is energies on this earth are rising, so all alignments are getting more and more intense, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the second part is we as humanity, as individuals and as communities, we come together at these dates to become more present and consciously open ourselves up for intentional transformation and change,
Mm-hmm.
right? So both our intention then matches the rising energy, and suddenly it becomes a very potent time of change or manifestation in some ways.
Mm-hmm. I know with the solar flares we had a couple weeks ago, there was one. I also follow Elizabeth Peru. I don't know if you're familiar with her, but she's awesome. And whenever something is like different, I'll check. I'm not always good about checking it every single day, but I'll check it whenever something's different. And I'll be, let me just see what's going on. And my dog was being her weird self, which happens when there's solar flares. I've recognized, you know. So she was being a little bit of a intensely reactive, where she just gets very demanding and glommy and just kind of paws at you and wants to be like spooned, but then she gets panty, and it's like I now recognize that this happens with solar flares with her. So I was like, there must be something going on, and it was like a 5 hour like solar flare. It like lasted super long,
Mm.
and then there's like another. There was like on the back of the sun, there's like a sunspot that's like getting ready to like blow or something. So it's like we're so affected by these energies, and the more sensitive you are, the more sensitive you are, and you'll notice it. And so like even on Saturday, I think it was Saturday, maybe it was Thursday. I don't know. Every day is mixed up because it's summer. But a few days ago, I was sitting and I felt anxious out of nowhere, and I was like, why am I anxious right now? I don't think I'm like. We were going into New York that day, but it was Thursday. So I was like, I'm not anxious about going into New York, but why am I feeling anxious? I'm like, I bet there's something going on, you know? And then like whatever astrological aspects were happening at that moment. And I think it might have been another solar flare or something. I don't even remember now.
Mhm.
Like look to just kind of confirm, like, what's wrong with me? What am I feeling? You know? So I don't know.
It's very aligned with what we are getting from our community
Mm-hmm.
and audience, and also like our personal experiences, as an organization. We notice that, first of all, like some of these cosmological things are getting more intense. They
Mm-hmm.
feel stronger.
Mm-hmm.
Our sensitivity is becoming more fine-tuned. So
Yeah.
we feel these changes more
Mm-hmm.
as they're happening.
Mm-hmm.
And that has something to do, I believe, with becoming more aligned and more operating in the space of conscious awareness.
Mm-hmm.
So if we imagine that our consciousness, as a pie chart, then we have, a big chunk of that pie chart being the unconscious or the collective unconscious. A small sliver is the, subconscious, and then there is an even smaller sliver, which is the conscious awareness part,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when we do this type of spiritual work, and when we like consistently grow and expand in our conscious awareness, then we are bringing in the subconscious and the unconscious into that pie,
Mm-hmm.
right? That
Mm-hmm.
this conscious awareness is. And
Yeah.
in that conscious awareness space, there is also a greater sensitivity to everything that's happening in our reality, everything that's affecting us,
Mm-hmm.
relationships, even our internal mechanisms, our internal habits, voices, beliefs, that programming that we have,
Mm-hmm.
conditioning that's coming to surface. You know, I've been seeing more things come to surface in the last couple weeks and months, and also last couple years,
Right.
than in my entire lifetime. So
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like getting more and more and more
Ramping up. Yeah.
intense, right?
Yeah.
It's ramping up.
Very much. I know. I've also noticed another physical. experience I have. It's like almost like a jittery legs, like restless legs that can happen. And I don't know if that's another solar flare thing or if it was the Schumann resonance. I think it's a Schumann resonance when that,
Sure.
I mean, I know that that responds to solar flares and stuff too, but, and the Schumann resonance is basically the heartbeat of the earth, like for those that might not know, but like it has its own pulsating energy. So yeah, I'll notice that. I'll be like, what's up with my, like, I feel like almost like restless, and I'm a good sleeper. So when I have like restless legs happening or like this, like, high energy pushing through me, I know that there's something bigger, so it's nice. And so that's why I like try to bring this up to people's attention, because people are sensitive but maybe aren't aware. So they're just like, oh, you too? I'll be like, did anybody else not sleep last night? And
Mm-hmm.
oh my God, so I just try to like get the word out, be like, no, you're not crazy. You're not alone. There's others going through this.
Absolutely. We're also trying to do the same thing, to communicate to people, hey, this is normal. This is the new normal for the times that we're currently alive in,
Right.
right? And as humanity is going through an awakening process, so is the Earth. So
Mm-hmm.
the Earth is going through an evolutionary process too, as a consciousness. She's growing and she's evolving, and we are growing and we are evolving, almost like in sync, in
Mm-hmm.
coordination, in collaboration,
Right.
right? So we are really part and we are influenced by the earth, but we are also influencing the earth in her evolution,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's why I believe that the work as a pillar of light is a beautiful thing in service to oneself and in service to humanity. But in combination with being an earth keeper, it's extremely more powerful because it's complementary,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's both like service to humanity and service to the earth, which are intrinsically tied. This
Yeah.
umbilical cord that we hold with the earth
Mm-hmm.
is a very valid aspect of our existence, of our reality.
So if people have the urge to hug a tree and send love into the tree, or blow their essence into a rock and throw it into the river, do it. Like I would, I mean, now I know that's okay and normal. But there was times where I was like, I don't know why I feel like I need to like kiss this rock, send my breath into it and throw it. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, feels good, feels right. I'm guided to do it. But then to be like, actually, no, you are making an impact. You are helping, like this is something that we can do for Earth, is to like acknowledge and love her. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's just like, it's so cool. Do you have any like advice for people on how they can help, you know, connecting with Earth or just assisting Pachamama?
Well, I'm a little biased because we have courses and trainings for
Well,
this
so
kind of
you have a
work.
structure for it. Yeah. So
We have a structure for it.
what do the courses look
And
like?
And it's a structure that was basically channeled. It's a structure that was delivered by the guides that we work with, the
Mm-hmm.
angelic guides and the Elohim. And so there is a structure and a pathway for becoming a pillar of light in service.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a structure and pathway for becoming a sacred earth keeper.
Okay.
And in the structure, the first step is doing a course that's called Foundations, almost like establishing a new baseline, an energetic baseline that is the foundation
Right.
for either pathway. So before you start on any of the pathways, you
Mm-hmm.
kind of like do foundations, which is a
Right.
4-week course.
Mm-hmm.
And then you do, either level 2 of Pillars of Light or level 2 of,
Mm-hmm.
Sacred Earth Keeper, and then level 3, and then you become initiated into these pathways.
Right.
Now, what does it mean to be initiated into this, becoming a pillar of light or becoming an earth keeper? It really means you are able to receive and request energy from higher planes of consciousness, and you have the capacity and the grounding to be able to receive it in a stable, in an
Mm-hmm.
aligned way, and be able to channel that energy to a person, to a place, or to a situation, right? So you're becoming a vessel for divine energy. And
Yeah.
we are basically supporting with these courses individuals to becoming those vessels with, shedding layers of conditioning, clearing energy lines, and
Mm-hmm.
establishing a solid routine and practice for overall well-being, holistic well-being,
Mm-hmm.
and increasing the capacity to receive higher voltage and higher wattage of energy from higher realms. Like,
Yeah.
how do you hold the high frequency in your
Mm-hmm.
being
Mm-hmm.
without it destabilizing you, right?
Yeah.
That's really the beauty and the power of it.
That's cool. Last night, I actually was doing another podcast interview with a woman who's a numerologist. And while we were talking, her computer was having like problems. It sounded like when you plug and unplug things, it kept making that sound. And she's like, I don't know what's wrong with my computer. She's like, actually, this happens sometimes when I talk to other 11s because I'm an 11th life path, as is she. So it's just like our energies were like, shoo, like the computer was like, whoa, whoa. It was a little bit much. So yeah, to try to
Mhm.
prevent from any like, scattery energy, I guess. So you have some tools for people to kind of keep their energy.
I think that's really important because
Mhm.
we can all become, higher potentiated beings and vessels, and we can momentarily receive more energy or connect into something.
Mhm.
But it's really about how high you go and how strong you deliver
You have to
has
be
to
equally
match
grounded.
how
Yep.
equally grounded and equally
Mhm.
strongly established roots.
Totally.
Otherwise, it'll be destabilizing. And I've seen so many spiritual people that are destabilized from the
Mhm.
work that they do.
Yeah.
And I count myself into it without having the exact guidance of, the guides that I work with.
Mhm.
I didn't know where I would be because there was many moments where I thought I'm about to, lose everything, like my mind,
Yeah.
and these experiences are sometimes necessary, but also I feel like I've been walking this path as a pioneer in this particular, delivery that we have, so that the people that are coming after,
Mhm.
they can receive it in a structured, in a safe and sound way,
Yeah.
right? So
Mhm.
we have dozens of facilitators holding space for hundreds of people going through these courses at
Mhm.
any point, and thousands of people have completed these experiences that have changed their lives. And it's important to have this kind of structure so that they can feel like they can surrender and they can trust the
Mhm.
container in which they're being held,
Yeah.
right? Even if it's intense momentarily with, the shedding and deconditioning and reprogramming that's going on.
I'm just impressed that you have a business that grew so strong and big, and you have all these people that on your staff or however you work that out, and then all the people that you've impacted. Like that's pretty amazing in 7 years' time that you've created like this whole network of whatever business, like just from a business standpoint, which I don't even care to talk about because like that's a lot. Just that's not the purpose of the show, but like that alone is pretty impressive to be like that you came out and created this and then created a big thing and that's kudos to you for that
Thank
level of
you.
organization. Maybe it's your corporate background or whatever your skill set that you brought into it that you're able to.
There is definitely an entrepreneurial aspect that I
Yeah.
brought in, and my, business partners who are also going through spiritual awakenings brought in. And but at the same time, while we brought in this entrepreneurial aspect of how to run a business, we didn't want to run a traditional business. We wanted to make sure it's a non-profit. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it is focused on impact. It is
Mm-hmm.
focused on impact. Of course, it has to be sustainable, because
Right.
if you're not sustainable, you can't do good,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So in that sense, we have established like many scholarship programs. We've established many free offerings, many pay-as-you-can offerings, and many payment plans, and so on. We try to be as generous as possible, and also not say no to anyone for
Mm-hmm.
lack of funds.
Right.
But at the same time, also making sure, like, okay, how do we grow? How do we reach more people? How do we deliver more impact
Mm-hmm.
while making sure that team is supported and we can actually do it in a healthy and sustainable way? Because we're still operating in this giant matrix, which is, a capitalistic matrix in
Yeah.
some ways.
Yeah, it is. Do you have like a physical location, or is it all just virtual and like wherever you land, you do it all from this side of things, like behind the
That's the
computer?
beauty of that's the beauty of technology,
Yeah.
and the beauty to some degree of COVID, right? One of
Hmm.
the silver linings in there
Hmm.
was we established the organization entirely decentralized.
Hmm.
Of course, you have to have uh, you know, a location, which
Hmm.
is in our case Northern California.
Hmm.
But our team is completely decentralized. We have some team members in Europe, we have some team members in the US, East and West Coast, and we have some team members in South America, Latin America.
Hmm.
So we can do the deliveries, the courses, live streams, and so on
Hmm.
from anywhere with good internet. I can deliver
Yeah.
this work. And it's equally as impactful as if we were to do it in person. Now,
Hmm.
of course, I love the in-person experiences, right? When we have like hybrid events and workshops where people can come into a room and, there's
Hmm.
meeting and getting to know people. But I've also found that we can actually deliver some massively life-changing experiences through an online delivery, because in the online delivery, like in the delivery of this type of energy and wisdom, there is no space-time restriction,
Right.
right? Definitely no space,
Hmm.
and definitely no time. So a live recording could at a future time still be very, very effective and impactful.
Yeah.
So if anyone chooses to go to our YouTube, for example,
Yeah.
or to our website, they can get a lot of free transmissions that were pre-recorded, but they can experience this or participate in one of our opening courses, which is called Discovery Series, Aligning Self and Earth,
Hmm.
which is basically a self-paced course that anyone can take.
Hmm.
And that course is available in English and in Spanish. So we try
Hmm.
to deliver it in different
Yeah.
languages.
What's your website and your different handles and things so people can
Oh
find
yeah, that's a good reminder. Thank you.
you? Sure.
So the website is very simple. It's evolution.one, ONE.
Hmm.
And on evolution.one, people can click on, transmissions, or they can click on courses and the different pathways. They can read about us. And there is also a link to our YouTube and Facebook and Instagram on the right top of the website. So
Yeah,
in the
people
YouTube
can
channel.
go to the website and be directed by all of the links and
Yes.
all the images or whatever, and I'll put it in the notes anyway, but I
Yeah.
just figured I'd give you the chance to say it, so.
Yeah. Evolution.one
Mhm.
is going to get everyone to
Where they
get
need
to
to
know
go.
us, and really get to connect with us. And we're not just like, I don't want to see ourselves as like just like another spiritual faucet that delivers,
Hmm.
things. But it's really very much like a family.
Hmm.
It's a community that is really close to each other and loving and open to new people that are coming.
Hmm.
I believe in these times where change is coming very quickly,
Hmm.
where people are potentially by themselves going through massive awakening processes around the world, they need a family that
Community.
understands what they're
Yeah.
going, a community that understands what they're going through more than ever. And we have the technical means and the technology to make that happen.
Hmm.
So that's what we're trying to do, and that's what we're aspiring to do,
And
right?
that's what I'm doing on a small scale here, with just like within reach, like, like, and some people that are out of physical reach, but I love supporting those that are, on a spiritual journey and are awakening, and just giving them that soft place to land and connect with other people that understand them, that it's not as weird as they think it is, because they
Exactly.
can see it in the community among them. So.
Yeah, there is something to be said that someone that is experiencing, let's call them extraordinary spiritual experiences, they think there's something wrong with them. And when they
Mhm.
come to you or me or someone in our community and they share this and they feel normal about themselves, knowing that other people have gone through something similar and more weird things, they're like, oh, so maybe nothing is wrong with me, and maybe I can make use of this process and
Right.
understand it better for
Yeah.
my betterment and for the betterment of humanity.
Yeah.
So in that sense, the communities are super, super important. And thank you for the beautiful work that you are doing in
Sure.
your community and also with the work you're doing to giving us a platform to talk to each other and talk to many people out there.
Yeah, it's really special, and I love seeing it grow and all the deeper connections being made, and it's just awesome, and like there's a teacher for everybody. So, if you resonate with the seal, then find them, like it's like that's the joy of being around different people, because then you could, oh, I just
Mhm.
know, like I like resonate with them and their message better than that person, even though we all have the same message. It's just like our personality and our meat suit packaging or whatever that people connect with, but it's the bottom line is the same. So wherever they get their cup filled, kind of a thing.
That is true. So I kind of compare this to, if you had like many hiking paths to the top of a mountain,
Hmm.
right? Everyone eventually ends up at the top of the mountain, no matter
Hmm.
which path you choose.
Right.
So, but whatever you path you choose will be yours and
Hmm.
it'll serve you.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your time, Asil. It's been great talking to you. I really am
Thank
appreciative.
you, Karen.
And I'll attach all the show notes and all the contact stuff in the notes. So
I
thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank
Much
you.
love.
Okay, bye-bye.